We're going live.
Okay, and I'm gonna.
Everyone, please stand by, quiet on the set. We're going live.
Okay, and I'm gonna.
Everyone, please stand by.
Okay, you all, the webinar has started and people are trickling in now. As you can see, we have about 150 people, 153 people registered. So right now we have 60 people coming in. So I'm gonna give it just a couple more seconds and we will begin. Thank you all for your patience. All right. Thank you all for being here. Each of our panelists, if you want to unhide your screens, that would be great. And thank you all for coming in. Just akwe to everybody. And just so excited to be here. Nadasui Sakampanayu Mashunatui Uskwa. My given name is Eileen Canoe. I'm Butterfly Woman. And I am a proud Northeastern traditional Native woman from Shinnecock. But I also am a descendant of the Montauk people. But I'm also a descendant of many of the ancestors of those that are on this panel here. And I'm just really happy to be here and be present with my relatives as we share our conversations. I am the owner of Moskehtu Consulting, which is a cultural and heritage preservation firm. And I felt during this time, it was important for us to come together after so many things that have just taken place, from Thanksgiving, National Day of Mourn, the National Week of Mourn, Indigenous Peoples Day, and Halloween, and all sorts of things that we just came all the way through, but we came through it together. And I just felt that it was relevant for me to have some sort of virtual conversation with people that I communicate with almost on the weekly. And so I just wanted to have this something that we could share and bring to the world. So that's kind of this is our platform. This is an Indigenous platform put on by Indigenous people that are doing the work to amplify our messages, but really to bring healing vibrations through our community. So I want to be able to ask my elder, Josephine Smith from the Shinnecock community, to lead us in a prayer, and then we'll get started. Do you have to unmute?
Sorry about that. First, Akwe, Muskuyan Kanitampawak, Pamishuan, excuse me a minute, oh, sorry, Pamishuan, Dasavis, Josephine Smith, Nuislang, Shinnecock. My name is Josephine Smith, and I am from the Shinnecock Nation. I first said hello, relatives and friends. Hi, Manitou. Masakwit Manitou Taputni. Unikisuk. Creator, great Creator, we thank you. Great Spirit, we thank you for this day, for this gathering of minds. May this be a gathering of good minds, of good thoughts, of good voices, of good words, of good hearts, that we are here to share in how we can overcome those obstacles that we face every day, those traumas that we have faced every day, how we can learn to move forward with our strengths, how we can help our elders to know that there is hope for our future with our young. May we continue to learn our languages. May we continue to learn our histories. May we continue to live in the values that our ancestors have left for us. And that we, people of the Northeast, continue to be nourished by the lands and the waters that surround us. I say Tabutni Anawayan to all who are participating tonight as panelists, as those who've come to listen. Thank you. Thank you all for your services that you do. In these things I say, Waminum Tampiog, all my relations. Tabutni. Now you're muted.
Tabutne. Thank you. That was beautiful. That's how we start, right? That's what we need. And I really thank you for that. I need that all day. And I hope that others felt that they needed that too when they received it. So what I'm going to do is just, kind of go over, just housekeeping as a moderator here. I want to be able to, go over the different types of things that everybody kind of seen in the topics that we're going to discuss. But one of the biggest housekeeping rules is that, we are going to ask that all of the questions that people might have, make sure you put that in the Q&A, because that might get a little lost in the chat. And if we're kind of going around in the panel, we might kind of not be able to scroll back up and answer that question. So I don't want people to think that we're not answering their questions. So put your questions directly in the chat. And also be mindful that we are sharing who we are, a little bit of who we are. So just be very, culturally sensitive and to that as we're doing such, because this is a responsibility that we have. This is work. That's why everybody looks so serious. It's work that we have to do for our people, from elders to young people to all of the different kinds of things that we wear, hats that we wear. But at the end of the day, everyone that's on here is also very much connected into a family unit. That's why we call ourselves sister tribes. So I wanted to just say that to all those that are in the audience, as we have had 153 people registered. Keep that in mind. Another part of the housekeeping is in the chat to everyone. You will see a link in there. And I'll just go ahead and put it back in there. That link is to send to anybody that may not have registered and want to watch this. So if you go to that, it should be able to be live, because we are live on YouTube. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the individuals to introduce themselves, tell us which community you're from, and maybe how you're connected to some of the other tribes maybe represented on this panel, but the Northeast. And then we'll go into passing it back over to me, and then I'll have some awesome, juicy questions to ask the panelists here. Okay, so I'm gonna start out with the beautiful Tracy Ramos. Hello, Akwe.
Wow, okay, I get to start. Wow, no pressure. Well, thank you. I want to definitely thank my cousin Andre Strong Bearheart for inviting me to this panel this evening. I am truly honored to have been asked. My name is Tracy Ramos, a loving medicine eyes, Womanasu Moskehtu Consulting. I'm a member of the Nipmuc Nation. I'm a descendant of the Ransom Hazard Brown Sprague lines. I have 3 beautiful daughters, Jalen, Karina, and Sophia. I've been married for 24 plus years, about 24 years. I live in Western Massachusetts, outside of Springfield. Let's see. I grew up in New York City, but I've been in this region since I was about 20 years old. So it's been a long time. I currently work in higher education. I'm finishing up my master's degree in public health. And my goal is to pretty much do the work that we're doing tonight. I just want to do that for, just full time. My goal is to concentrate on advocacy and teaching, focusing on the needs of our people and people in color in general. I'm involved in nonprofits, Women of Color Health Equity Collective. I do lots of different race equity training, cultural humility training in Western Mass. But that's pretty much just a little start of who I am.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of panelists, and this is going to be awesome because we get to really just kind of share what we need to share, and it's not just a small segmented group. I wanted to be able to have as many that had the time to be able to get on here. So I'm going to pass it over to Larry Spotted Crow to share who you are.
All right, thank you. Vatni, Niwachia Yim Lohag Minawak. Inaho Kankantu Chokesiche. My name is Larry Spotted Crow Man, and I am a member of the Nipmuc Nation. My families are Vickers, Hazard, Pegan, goes back to the Pegan people. I'm connected to Hassanamisco, also the Wabaquasit, and also the Hazard, Samson Hazard. I go all the way back to him, who was a Revolutionary War soldier, and I'm also a Whedon, so I'm related to so many people. My great-great-grandmother on the other side was Betsy Whedon, so it's a lot of family here, as you mentioned. And I'm also the co-director of the Okietail Cultural Center. We are the first and only Native-run center in all of Western and Central Massachusetts. And I'm also the co-director and founder of the Native Youth Empowerment Foundation. I'm a writer, cultural educator. A big part of my work is mentoring youth around sobriety, drug prevention. We did a curriculum here in Massachusetts a few years back called Circle Tide to Mother Earth. It was a collaboration between the Massachusetts Department of Public Health and our tribal people, along with the Mashpee Wampanoag. So I'm really excited about that work. And yeah, I've been doing this about 30 years now. I've had the opportunity to travel to many parts of the world and share. And so I'm really excited to be here with all of you today, because I've been on many panels and talks. Rarely it's all Native people, usually talking to white people. So it's fun to be here with family and just kind of share. So Kutavadamish, thank you.
Thank you. That is true. And this is the cool thing, that this is powered and put on by Native people too. You know what I mean? That's the cool thing about it. We own our own businesses, right? So next is Nakai. Please introduce yourself and share us who you are.
Hello. My name is Nakai Clearwater Northup. I'm a member of the Mashantucket Pequot tribe and Narragansett as well. I'm the lead educator at the Mashantucket Pequot Museum, and that's taken up really the majority of my time. I've gotten into a lot of local work. I'm a director for the Stonington Historical Society as well. And I get into a lot of activism and environmental rights, working currently as the vice chair of my tribe's Natural Resource Committee, focusing and trying to fight on getting our people our coastal fishing rights and, really fight for this land. I'm honored and pleasured to be here. I'm the baby, I think, so I'm excited and I'm honored to, share this space with everyone, and I look forward to a fun night.
I'm so proud of you, and just not to make you feel like a baby, but I really am. And just everything you named was like, wow, okay, natural resources, okay, fish, you know what I mean? That's awesome. It's empowering. Ray, Two Hawks, Watson, tossing it over to you.
When in the kind of Tawamas got the Squamson, no to his nisu wishawanak, no what you nahiganset. When in Moskehtu Consulting, good to see you all, family. Some of you seen along the powwow trail, activism, all of that other good stuff. Some are extended family. But all of you, just honor to you all for the good way that you all come in. And I'm very honored to be a part of this panel this evening. Raymond Two Hawks Watson, Narragansett. If you're familiar with the lines of the nation, from the Watson, Michaels, Champlins, Niles, it goes on and on. I also got some what I believe to be Mohegan connections through the Congdon lines, and got family members that married into Nipmucks and all of that sort of stuff that happens with our families. But born and raised up here in the Providence area. Bella, very good to see you. Bella's a very good friend of the family. Grew up with my mother and aunt, so always a pleasure to see her, the Narragansett family. From a professional background, I'm the CEO and founder of the Providence Cultural Equity Initiative, which is a nonprofit based in Providence, whose mission is to steward and ambassador Rhode Island's cultural sector and economy. For those who may not be aware, Providence, Rhode Island, at the turn of the 20th century, was the third largest Native community in the US. And then when you come to 2021, that's not the narrative that most people know. So a lot of our work focuses on that, but not just the Indigenous heritage, really the cultural diversity. There's so much of it in Providence in particular, but Rhode Island generally, where we just really think that it's a great resource that the state should be supporting and cultivating and promoting more. I am also currently finishing up my third year of law school at Rogers University School of Law, focus in Indigenous law and policy, mediation, and estate planning, if I can get into this class this semester. And then lastly, just kind of a little bit of icing on the cake, because it's a true blessing and I'm very humbled by it. Last Friday, I received the President's Lifetime Achievement Award for voluntary service for my work in the Mount Hope community, which was the neighborhood my family moved to in the late 1800s when they moved off of the reservation. So very blessed to be here tonight. Thank you for listening, and I'm excited to share some thoughts as we move with our discussion this evening.
Thank you. Wow, I'm glad you dropped that, because I didn't know exactly what the type of award was, but I was going to kind of intertwine that in my question. So it's good that you touched on that. Chris Newell, good to see you. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, Shanae. Thanks for the invitation, and welcome and greetings to all the panelists. A lot of good friends on here, a lot of people I've known for a long time. My name's Chris Newell. I am Passamaquoddy, born and raised in the community of Madocnagook, which is known as Indian Township, Maine. And been around here since the mid 90s. I originally came to the territory with the Mystic River Singers based here in Mashantucket, which is where I'm currently coming to you from. And now I am married into the Pequot community here, and served for 6 years as the education supervisor for the Pequot Museum, and for a short stint moved on to be the first Wabanaki executive director of the Abbey Museum in Bar Harbor, Maine. But back here in Mashantucket, and have a educational consultancy called Agamau Educational Initiative, which is a partnership with myself and Donna Spears and Dr. Jason Mancini. And what we do is work within the region here, but also nationally in a lot of other places, to bring Native perspectives into all areas of education, whether K through 12 schools, colleges, universities, museums especially, and media. So a lot of different things that we all have our hands in here, and good to see you all.
Thank you so much. And the lovely Belanoka.
Asko Wikwasan, everyone. My name is Belanoka. I am a Narragansett tribal elder. I'm honored to be on this panel with such wonderful people who are doing some great things. I'm honored to see my nephew here today, Adequin, and my little cousin Nakai, and many others. I can't really take or talk much about what it is that I do, because I don't do it for myself. It is for those to come. It is those who have been left behind. It is for those whose names have been lost due to so many atrocities that took place. So my whole thing is to decolonize, and starting with myself, to rid all of the poison and the brainwashing, to speak in spirit,
to speak in a way that honors my people, that honors all others, and to show people that when left in our hands, that we do things the right way and that we show them how it needs to be done, and to prepare for the many generations to come and beyond. Aho.
Thank you so much. And thank you for bringing up, those that have gone before us. That's something that I was going to kind of talk about a little after we do our introductions, but it is so important that we do think about that. But I think everyone that's here also, that's the work that we do. We keep that in our work, in our hearts every single day. So I would like to also introduce Dan Simmons.
Y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
It's good to see everyone. Many of you I know, that some of you are family. Those who don't know, I'm disenrolled, as well as about 500 other people in my family. We are the Simons family, spelled all three different ways, out of Connecticut, Rhode Island. We are all Mashantucket Pequots, and still fighting for enrollment. We've been fighting for enrollment since I was a child. So that has been much of my elders and my parents' fights. I grew up seeing them in those fights and kind of realized I didn't want to go down that path of continuous, I fight, but I don't fight in the same way that they did in the sense of where it consumes my life. I've tried to get more into the culture, which is something I wish that they did for me as a child, and things that, I try to emphasize to my kids and other youth, that, we don't need to be enrolled to know our culture. So that's something that, I try to push to people, and especially my own children who are also Crow. I'm coming from Montana. My wife is enrolled in the Crow tribe, and my son just opened the door, so pardon me. So yeah, I'm a businessman, also artist. I own Wampumware, which is behind me here, and with Wampumware, I've been able to go to other ventures with Pequot Properties. Pequot Properties, I'm trying to buy the land back one house at a time. That's my little saying there, because we all got to get our land back, whether we're paying for it or however we need to do it, because this is all of our lands. Whether if you're in America, you're all on an indigenous land, whichever lands you're on. So I'll keep it brief here, and you can come back to me. What else? Oh yeah, and I'm also one of the co-founders of Social Distance Powwow. So that was started in the wake of COVID-19, and it's been quite a time-consuming thing. Most of us people don't realize, I don't get paid from Social Distance Powwow. It's all a volunteer thing, as well as the other people involved with that. So it's nothing I'm getting rich off of. And it's a nonprofit. We're under a 7th generation fund with that. So yeah, and that's it for me. Good to see y'all, and I'm happy to be here with everyone. I miss your faces and miss seeing you in person.
Yes, thank you. And I wear the wampum ring every day. I don't care if I'm wearing sweatpants. I don't care if I got my Aunt Jemima wrap and I'm running to the store. I always have my wampum ring on. It's everything. This is from Dan. Ada Quinn, please introduce yourself.
All right. Sha, hello. Maninakan, nataswi sa takwin nuto mas masipia, ka nahagasia, ka Mashantucket Pequot. I just want to say good evening. My name is Adequin. I come from the Mashpee Wampanoag, Narragansett, and Mashantucket Pequot tribes. This is my first panel, my first, honestly, Zoom. I know everybody been doing Zoom and stuff, especially since COVID, but this is my first one. But it's definitely good to see everybody here. I definitely want to say it's an honor to have me here. It's great to hear all the work that you guys are doing in your communities. And you know what I mean? I really look forward to just staying together, doing things like this, spreading the word, and working as a unit, I just want to say that we could only do so much by ourselves, but once we get together like this and have platforms where we could talk about different things and matters and stuff and get on the same page and everything, we can make big strides, And I appreciate Shanae for putting this platform together. Yeah, so I went to the Unity conference. Not too sure if too many people out there are familiar with Unity. It's United National Indian Tribal Youth. That's where I learned a lot of my knowledge behind business meetings and just like moving forward with like initiatives and stuff. And they taught us a lot. There was motivational speakers there. I met so many Indigenous youth all over Indian country. And yeah, I do a little bit of work with my Aunt Bella with Native Green. We don't, like she said, we don't really speak too much about what we do, just because it's all in spirit, you know. I also do a lot of work with Wampanoag singers and dancers. We travel around to different schools and we do cultural education. And right now we're working on educating the educators and creating curriculums. But that's a little bit about me, and I'm looking forward to hearing more.
Thank you so much. And I feel like super honored. You said it's your first panel. I'm like, and it's our panel? What? Now you really you pretty much just go take off because you had the best foundation. Some of us just got thrown in there. You know what I mean?
One more thing. I just wanted to say, I also do work with Rumble on the Res, which is a substance abuse nonprofit where we basically host boxing matches on different reservations, and we actually just had one this past September, and I came out on top. So I just want to say thank you, Stan, for putting that together and hosting that, because it really makes a difference in our community, and it gives people like something to really like work towards and take like self-discipline and self-control, you know. KO, of course, knows about the boxing, you know. I see her, she got the world championship, first Native woman. I love it. Friggin', yeah, we just talk about everything. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's actually a good way to just introduce Kaylee McQuinnanog Reese, KO, as we all know her. And a lot of the things that you all were saying, it's so crazy how it structured some of the questions, because you kind of answered some of the things that I wanted to kind of be able to hear from you all. So it works. But we'll go back to that in the questions part. But without further ado, Kaylee, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Sure, Keenan Hampog, Nasuis McQuinnanog, Nutamas, Sekonke Wapanaak, Nutamas, Nipmuc, Nutamas, Cherokee, Cape Verde Islands, Natai, Providence, Rhode Island. I'm so excited to be here. Shanae, Tabutni, I love you so much for putting this on. This is so necessary right now in this time. I'm so honored to see everybody's face on this panel, to be here and speak about just the necessary things that Spirit and Creator needs us to talk about. As my boy Adequan just said, I am the current IBO, WBO, and WBA super lightweight world champion, your former WBC, IBA, and UBF middleweight world champion, the first fights to ever be held on HBO for female fights, and your first mixed Indigenous female world champion. I've been fighting professionally for over 13 years, and as Bella and Adequan, everybody kind of already spoke on, I really don't speak on kind of my accolades too much because it's way, way bigger than myself. You know, I have a slogan that my sister Warrior had helped me come up with Fight for All Nations. And that's exactly, it was a brutal way to get that slogan, let me tell you, but that's exactly what I do. Kind of little background about where I'm from. The Wampanoag Nation is a huge nation, but I'm from the Sekonke or the Sukikonket Black Goose Tribe, which is a direct descendant from Anawan, the Painisi warrior of Massasoit Osumiko. And so the kind of parallels between being a warrior and being a direct descendant of Anawan and being a boxer right now, it's our medicine. No one can tell you how to pray. Nobody can tell you what you need to do for your people. You just kind of get chosen. And I was chosen to bring a voice to the voiceless. I do my best to bring awareness to different issues going on in Indian country. We as Natives know what goes on in our community, but if I'm in front of a crowd, entertainment, boxing, what have you, you know, I'm gonna pump out MMIW, pump out Stop Line 3, find our children. I just think it's really important to get in front of those non-Indigenous audiences to ask those questions, to bring awareness. Awareness leads to change. I think our storytelling is part of a healing. It's the first step of healing, and especially with our elders, especially with these residential schools, children being uncovered, and just a lot of things coming to the surface. I just think it's really important to bring awareness and let everybody know it's okay to start telling our stories. It's necessary. So leading into my newfound medicine, my given name is Mikwinanog, means many feathers, many talents. And I kind of delved into the acting realm, or our story, the modern day storytelling, and I helped co-write a film called Catch the Fair One, and actually starred in it as well as my acting debut. It's loosely based around missing and murdered Indigenous women. It's no way, shape, or form an answer, but it's just a story that needed to be told. So I was very excited to be someone who's Indigenous, someone who's Black Indigenous, being on a big screen, because we have such lack of representation in so mainstream media, in entertainment, and all across the board. So that's pretty much me. That's what I do. To Brittany, everybody, I'm so excited to have this discussion. It's so nice to see everybody. So let's get this started.
Yes, thank you so much. We're almost through the introductions, so do keep that in mind. So I'm going to ask Andre to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are.
First, I want to say thank you to everybody who's on the panel, and it's nice to see some familiar faces, some family. Natasawas, Minikisu Masmata, Wanakwayawani. My name's Andre Strong Bearheart. I'm from the Nipmuc Nation. I come from the Robeson, Walker, Hazard, Pegan lines as well, and goes back to the Ransom. So, I know much closer than we even know Tracy, and so, but I mean, I grew up on the Cape, and I kept moving north, but I'm right now I'm in Western Mass. I also reside in Grafton, Massachusetts, where our reservation, our little 4.5 acre reservation is, but we know that our lands are much bigger than that. That's what the state recognizes it as it, but we know that we move throughout our territories, whether we're state or federally recognized or not, because we know who we are. We've been here since before they started writing it on paper and documenting it the way that they will see it. We acknowledge who we are. We acknowledge our communication and our ties that we have with these sister tribes that we have here. It's important for me, some of the work that I do. As a tradesman, I've been a carpenter all my life, but on the second end of, I should say the second half of my life, I kind of threw that away because it's hard to balance in both worlds, to become to put that 40, 50, 60-hour work week and try to balance being an Indigenous person here. It kind of rips you in half. So it was important for me to put that carpentry work more on the lesser side and get this traditional work, the thing that fills my spirit and allows me to be me here in Moskehtu Consulting, that great turtle. It allows me to be me here. And so what's become real important for me is to rekindle whatever flames that I feel or my spirit tells me in prayer or whatever, that needs to be relit within our communities. And so it's important for me to, if I see anything lacking in any ways, and not because, that it's not cared for, it's just that, society has assimilated in a lot of different ways. And so, some things have kindled in me, whether it's burning machines or teaching traditional brain tanning or, having regalia making workshop classes, or teaching the young these dances, or, just getting them together into the woods and teaching them these hunting and traditional, fishing values, just being connected in the ways that we always have been here. Nothing really means more to me than those things there, because without those values, I feel like I should more or less say that, like, I feel that that's more purposeful for me in life. It can be difficult trying to figure out one's purpose here. And so when I'm doing these things, I know that my spirit's full. And so no matter the way that society tells me that, I'm supposed to be doing this, I'm supposed to live in a house like that, or, I need to have an X amount of dollar in a bank account, or all these things that they say, none of that stuff is relevant to me when it comes to filling my spirit here. And so, you know, it's important for me to keep these young ones around. If we're not doing these things with young ones around us, really we're wasting our time. And so I've gathered my nephews and whatever other young that I can, and just to get them involved in all these things. And they're becoming, you know, one's 18, I got another one that's 11, another one 20 years old. And man, they're becoming really great activists right along with us, great cultural preservation stewards as well. And so it's really great for me to be able to know that, you know, it's hard to push that life away. As a union carpenter I was. And so, you know, society has a way of paying you X amount of dollars so that you're comfortable. But what you realize that, you know, that comfortability is actually a way that they're keeping you assimilated and keeping you so comfortable that you live the way that they want you to live. And so what I realized is I needed to get uncomfortable for a while. And in that uncomfortable state, I became full. And so I can't really explain these things to people in society in today's day and age because they don't understand that. They think that, you know, folks have gone crazy if they've gone back to the res or gone back into the places that they need to become a whole. And they don't understand these ways, but it's not for them to understand unless they're willing to make that choice themselves first. And so, you know, none of that is really much that I can explain to people unless they want to take that walk with me or with themselves. You know, a lot of the times it's taking that walk by yourself into those woods. And so, you know, whether it's us standing on the front steps of, you know, the State House trying to change the Massachusetts state flag, or whether it's us, you know, reaching out to Cali and dancing her into the ring because, you know, we're boosting up our sister tribes, or it's all about, you know, or even this past year heading up to Penobscot territory and being welcomed into the, you know, the Fiddlehead harvest. You know, it's all about us coming together and really, you know, relearning what assimilation and colonization has done here, you know. And so I'm really grateful for everybody that spoke before me that's on this panel. I'm looking forward to continuously having this conversation, because the more that we can continue to bind together, you know, and tighten those braids, then we're going to really move forward, you know, no matter the opposition, in which it comes in many different forms, you know. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much. That was really beautiful. It's literally crazy how you all are kind of like answering some of the questions that I had specifically for you. And I love it because, you know, spirit just comes in, and, you know, the way I do anything, I just allow at least 85% of anything that I do for creator to just come and hijack the whole thing. You know, I don't try to just be so focused on what the schedule is supposed to be, because at the time that we're actually doing this, creator might have had something completely different that we didn't see, and if we're not open to it, we won't fully receive it. And so I just want to thank you all for sharing those things. I want to ask Diashwa to introduce herself and, you know, what it is that, you know, you are doing in our community.
Akwe Diashwa Nadasawis. Hello, my name is Diashwa Sylvester. I'm an enrolled member of the Shinnecock Indian Nation, and I'm also the director of the Boys and Girls Club of the Shinnecock Nation. I'm also an Eastern blanket dancer, and I am a mother of a 2-year-old son. And it's so crazy just to hear what everybody was saying, because it's kind of like we're all tied together by like a string, you know, and I can kind of piggyback off of what Andre was saying. And then Adequin made me think about my past when I was growing up. You know, my foundation started off at Unity. You know, that's kind of where I really learned that I wanted to give back to my community. I didn't know how at the time, but I was like, this is what I want to do. You know, I want to help my people. I want to encourage us to do better, to be better, and to want better. So that's kind of where it all started. But what Andre was talking about when he was talking about, you know, educating our youth and taking them and teaching them about our culture and the hunting and the fishing and all of the aspects that are important to our ancestors, which are aspects of our culture, need to be shared with our youth so that they can learn it and they can grow up and they can be taught about who they are as Indigenous people. And then no one can ever tell them any different. And there's power in just knowing that where you come from, who you are, and just being able to do what you're going to do in your life just based off of that. So I'm honored to be here today. Thank you, Shanae, for asking me to speak tonight. And I'm excited to hear about the different discussions that pop up and to promote healing across Indian country. And healing specifically for the Northeast, and us building these connections that we need to have to become stronger and to become better and work together just so that we can do some really great things.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I know, Josephine, you kicked us off with a prayer before we did all these introductions. And so it's only right now, I guess, the way it fell, that you just kind of introduce yourself and tell us what you do. And then once that's finished, I will literally get right into these questions so we can kind of address some of the topics.
Tabutni, sorry, I missed some of that. I did get kicked off the internet, and hopefully I'll stay on again. I did introduce myself already. My name is Josephine Smith. My native name is Pamishuan, which I spoke of earlier, which means running water. And I was named by my grandmother. I am from the Shinnecock Nation. I am of the Lee, Cuffee, Kellis, Bun line. My grandmother and grandfather were Lee and Kellis's, and we go back to, as I said, the Cuffee and Bun lines also on Shinnecock here. My father was not from the reservation here. And I currently serve the nation as a Cultural Resources Director. I'm also on the Powwow Committee. I've done that probably almost my whole life, working for the powwow one way or another. I have been a cultural educator for more than 45 years. I've worked for the nation through our museum as an education coordinator and event planner for the Shinnecock Museum for 3 years. I've worked with the Indian Education Program as the cultural teacher for that, a cultural instructor. I've done cultural enrichment, whether it's teaching history, doing language classes, dance classes, regalia making, beadwork. My whole life has been helping and teaching the culture. I was blessed to be born into a family that were people that knew of the medicines, that people that we didn't, all of my family weren't dancers and all, but it was just, we were born with those values. We were brought into a family with the values of the land and of the waters and of our relations to one another, and knowing who we are, as Dashwood just said, knowing who you are, and that's something that I believe is so important, and why I believe I always have wanted to be a part of the cultural work, because knowing who you are gives you that strength, and being able to instill in one another, it doesn't matter what you look like, it's who you are, and you have that strength inside of you. And we have to continuously teach our children that, to stand up for themselves, to let people know. If you can stand there and say, generation after generation of your family members, and I think that is so important. And you can say, I am from this land, I am from the waters. My people were whalers. My people were hunters, my people were gatherers, and these are things that we still do today. This is so important, to know who you are, where you come from, what your ancestors have done. And the fact that we are still on our original territories is so important, and such a place of strength, that we need to, when I talk to people from other tribes, I try to do some comparisons when they say, oh, well, you all don't speak your language anymore, or you don't do this, or you don't do that. It's like, we've had contact for more than 400 years, since the 1500s, of trying to be wiped out as a people. This has happened to us, but we are still here on our original territory. And that is the strength of our people that we must continuously instill in one another and in our children. That to me, that's one of the most important things that we can do, and to instill in them that it is through our faith, the faith of our ancestors, that belief in the Creator, that has kept us who we are, where we are. There's a reason why we are here and why we stayed. There are those who traveled to take some of those ways, those who lived in areas. We're on Long Island. We're only but so long and so wide. We didn't have, we had the hills, but we didn't have mountains to run and be able to take some of our cultural ways and hide, in that area, and have people who will continue that. So people left here. There are the stories that come from those who came from the East Coast, who came from where the whales were, and who traveled to the Midwest and were able to take some of the ways with them, but knowing that those ways would come back to us. And I think that is a very important thing that we remember and that we teach, both to our own people, to our relatives, and to those from other tribes and from other nations, that they understand what we have gone through and how far in history it was from where their history with their interactions have started. When they were doing the railroad, going through the Western movement with the railroad in the 1850s, well, at the same time, they were bringing the railroad east through Long Island and destroying tribes, trying to take away our lands, trying to say that there were no more people, no more native people living on Long Island, just so they could get our lands. One of the largest areas of our land was taken in 1859. Thousands and thousands of acres. And so these are things that we have to teach, like I said, not just ourselves, but others, people from other tribes, as well as the general public. So it is, these are things that I try to do in the teachings that I do, in the presentations that I do, whether I'm doing things for the tribe, whether I'm doing things for on my own, that I've been invited to be on panels or speak before other groups. It's just, we have to educate others. We have to give that education in order to heal. Because there's a saying that I always have ended a lot of my talks with, that part of it I heard from Slow Turtle, from Mashpee, and then I've kind of added to that because I just thought it was relevant. But that is, with knowledge comes understanding. With understanding comes respect. With respect comes peace. And I think that is so important, that we take that saying as we each go out and are teaching others, and as we are learning from others, and as we are trying to get that understanding of those traumas. And so I think that is so, so important that we do that. The other thing that I do, I also am a native cook. I used to have a taste of tradition. Some of you might have seen me on the powwow trail. Deasha was trying to get me to give up my recipes. I haven't quite decided that yet. I share a little bit of it. I teach you how, but not all of the tricks of the trade. Right now, I've changed the name of my business. I'm not cooking on the trail as much as I used to. But my business now is Hands of Tradition, and I love making jewelry, doing beadwork. I've done beadwork since my sisters were teaching me loom work at the age of about 7 years old. I haven't always lived on Shinnecock territory. I lived in Brooklyn, New York, growing up, went through high school there, but Shinnecock was always home. We were always at the reservation to be with our family, to be with my grandmother. We lived in my grandmother's house, and we're with all our aunties and uncles, and they would come into the city. We had a number of relatives that lived in different parts of the city, and we would get together when we weren't home. If something happened at home, grandma got sick, auntie got sick, we all came home and knew that there was a relative nearby who could drive us home. So those are and as my father had told my mother, he died when I was 3, but it was like, go raise your children in Shinnecock, go home to Shinnecock. And then right before he passed, they had thought of coming and building. And so I came home as soon as I finished school, and I have raised my family. I'm a mother of 4, grandmother of 9. And very, very proud of my children and how they have continued the tradition of learning the culture, wanting to learn our culture, wanting to pass those traditions on. And each of them in their own ways are our teachers, our educators, our counselors, our cultural people who love our families and love our tribes and love our ways, the traditional ways of life. And I'm very happy that we are bringing back some of those traditional ways, and that 3 of my grandsons so far have gone through coming of age ceremony, which hasn't been done on Shinnecock in probably 100 years since the last real ceremonies were done. So it fills me with that hope as an elder to see that has happened and the direction where our youth are going. And I think Deasha, for her work in doing this, she was one of our ones that came and helped and came to classes and was a teacher and continues to teach. So
Thank you.
And Shanae, for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Everything you said, really, I think I just saw all of us nodding our heads and everything you were saying, because we're all connected. And Bella has this saying called spirit to spirit. And so, the connection that our spirits have when we're all speaking, you can feel it, you can see it. And like Andre said, there's not always English words for it. So some of the things that you brought up, actually, what I really want to jump right into is erasure. I hear a lot of that kind of through some of the introductions that we did, and just to all those that are in the audience, about 107 people participating here. It was 153 registered, and we're also going live. So, no pressure to anybody that may not have known who's watching here. But I just want to keep that in mind, because one thing that Josephine was talking about was that, what our responsibility is to teach and to share, a lot of this wisdom, because even though some of us are Shinnecock or Montauk or Nipmuc or Massachusetts or, Wampanoag or whatever community we're from, we do have a responsibility to be stewards of this land and water and one to one another, and a lot of the teachers, the elders that are not here, we kind of have all kind of learned from. So I wanted to talk about some of the erasure because what we just experienced was the National Day of Mourn. And a lot of us literally descend from, or some of us may have just remembered that time of the first national protest that took place there. But we all kind of come from some of those people that were the organizers of that. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some of that erasure. I know that maybe a few of you, I know Andre, you were actually there a week prior as we talk about the 400th year of the anniversary of the Mayflower landing, but sometimes the erasure that we're still currently experiencing as Northeastern natives who literally still have to drive past a sign that says established in 1640. That's the insidious trauma and the historical trauma that we face literally every single day. But there's a responsibility that we have to uphold our prayers, to uphold this work and this wisdom, but there's so many challenges that we're faced every single day. And I know that, many of the different tribal members from Mashpee, went out there and organized a prayer. Many who are in this panel, I know Adequin, who we have here, his family was out there, his dad. And Andre, I know that you were there. And I just wanted you to just kind of share, and let's all be mindful that it is 8:30, no natives give introductions. And our introductions are like, can be a while, but it's needed, But at the same time, if you could just, give us some feedback on what took place, because, there was a lot of media that went out. There was a lot of social media posts, and a lot of people they're curious about what we experience and what is our story, so by you going out there, just share us why you went out there, what took place that day, and what is really our call to action, going forward, and to make sure that we're not continuously being erased as families.
Yeah, absolutely. I can speak on that. I know Ashby had reached out to, any sister tribes to come on out and, during their Thanksgiving celebration or their Thanksgiving parade that they have this year, they were commemorating the 400 year, and they had some chiefs from different territories come on out, and they honored them in these territories. And really, that's not our territory as a Nipmuc. So, I would rather someone from that territory speak on that. But I did want to say, I was more than happy to stand with folks that day. And that's the reason why we were asked to go out that week prior to National Day of Mourning, mainly to be out there on that day of that celebration and that parade that they had, talking about, I believe the newscast was saying that it's the only historically correct, I don't have it verbatim, but it blew my mind. It was like, it's the only historically correct parade in all of the states. And and we were like, well, if it's historically correct, then there should probably be a lot of bloodshed because, the Metacom War, and you want to talk about the 1675 wars per capita was the bloodiest battle to set foot on US soil. So, if they want to get politically correct, then there should have been a lot of bloodshed that day. So that's not what we want. We didn't want bloodshed. In fact, folks asked us to come out at the end of it because obviously if we had gone out in the beginning of it, it would have turned into something that obviously folks we didn't want. We didn't want to start a war. What we needed to do was have people acknowledge that we are still here. And I don't know what you're celebrating. I don't know who you brought from whatever other territories to acknowledge, but it was completely out of line and disrespectful. And so what we did there that day was just, sing some honor songs and, put up some prayers. And I know that the newscast came over and Brian Whedon did an acknowledgement about, not a land acknowledgement, an acknowledgement about those folks and what they're doing over there. And the way that things should be done here and what's happened here.
Mhm.
I'm sure some more folks can speak on that.
Yeah, for sure. I know. And then I'm gonna maybe Adequate, you might want to add to that, but and going from that, I think some of the beautiful results that we have seen over the years from our people are things like this. Does this look familiar to anybody on the panel there? Does this book look familiar? This was written by Larry Spotted Crow Mann, and I know Chris Newell has also written a book in regards to talking about Thanksgiving and things like that. And so I also want to, ask you, Adequate, as your relatives, your dad was there, to just, as a Mashpee, Wampanoag man, and Narragansett, Scattacoat, Pequot, Shitty Wampagans, be able to just kind of talk to that or add to what Andre was saying. But I definitely also want to get some feedback on, how these books, I know Chris wrote a book recently to address, it as the same thing with Larry Mann there. So I want to be able to toss that question also over to you all. So go ahead, Adequate.
I just want to say that Andre did an excellent job of explaining basically what happened that day, and like he said, for them to be like period correct, it totally went different, and as far as the other tribal representation, it's kind of unbelievable that somebody could come to another person's land and try to represent them, especially just in the way that they did. I don't really want to talk too negatively about that, but I just want to say that it was much different, and at any time you could talk to any one of these people, you could go to any one of these lands. We all have different museums and stuff that actually have the actual knowledge, and fortunately, being around my grandfather, he's always been a part of so many movements like AIM and all kinds of different things. It's good to have him around, because and as he gets older, it makes me feel a lot more responsible, and I feel a little bit ignorant to some things, but just being able to have conversation with him, and actually going to places like the Great Swamp, the Great Swamp where the massacre was and everything, being able to go to these grounds and basically really have that time and mourn all the losses, that's actually how we should celebrate those holidays. Our people were put through terrible atrocities, and it's just, I don't know, I'm getting a little bit all over the place with it, but to celebrate Thanksgiving, I don't want to really tell anybody how to celebrate it, but the least you could do, especially just knowing that you're on the land of our people, is to acknowledge who we are, know what people's land you're on. If you're in Massachusetts, most likely you're on Wampanoag territory. If you're in Rhode Island, you're on Rhode Island, and at least gain some knowledge and some background, and build that awareness. And yeah, I don't know, I wouldn't want to tell anybody how to really spend their Thanksgiving, but if you're getting together and you're celebrating it's a big party, no, that's not the right thing to do at all. But if you could at least acknowledge those people that are in those lands that help these pilgrims survive and stuff, their first winter here, that's all I ask, But yeah, I don't want to go too far off.
Okay. Yeah. So just going to really quickly make this somewhat of a two-part question for Larry Spotted Crow and Chris Newell. Chris Newell, who has been one of my teachers when I lived out in New England. I've kind of lived in all three states, just saying. So been able to kind of spend time very closely and kind of live among my sister tribes. But the Morning Road to Thanksgiving was a book that I have. I love it. Those are, if anybody hasn't seen it, absolute beautiful book. But this is your book, and I would love to hear what brought you to writing something like this, which might hopefully inspire some of us young people or others to be able to, because this is a way to make change. This is a solution. You know, we can go out, stand on the front lines. It's definitely necessary. We can change policy. We can do all those kind of things. But they always say that if you put it in a book, you know, sometimes, you know, some people may not read it. But if it's written by our people, it encourages us to read it. And then now that teaches some of us, you know, how to go about and some of the truths. So what led you to writing this book? And then that's the same question for you too, Chris, with your new book.
Thank you, Chene. And I want to say what led me to that is kind of what a lot of the young folks like Andre and Adequate and many of the young folks are saying here today. You know, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, early part of the 80s, and in Western Massachusetts. And I've said this many times. It's probably was the worst time of my life as a Native child. And you know, these are supposed to be the time of your life as a kid and going to school. And you know, the level of abuse and the racism. I mean, it was so normalized. You know, you can be called the N-word and all these different things that we were called as Indigenous people. And it was common. My oldest brother's nickname was Injun Joe. And for us older folks, remember the story of Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. Injun Joe was this knife-wielding crazy Indian. So these were the kind of pejorative things that we grew up with. And there weren't too many Native spaces. I mean, you know, remember like Slow Turtle and there was the Mohawk Trail. There were very few that the tribal powers were going on at the communities. But other than that, there wasn't a whole lot going on for a Native person. You had to stay within your own circles. And so there was a lot of suffering going on. And, you know, we still see this throughout the country, you know. And I've shared this story, you know, quite a bit about, you know, my growing up struggling with addiction and alcoholism and all that, to deal with all the pains that I was going through as a child, you know. And so I was very blessed, I would say, lucky, blessed by the Creator that by the time I was 21, and I talked about the time when I was in the hospital from alcohol poisoning at the age of 21. And on the TV screen, there was this documentary about Christopher Columbus. And it hit me like never before. And I'm watching this documentary and the narrator's talking about how the Europeans brought alcohol to the Indians, how they summarily annihilated their community, they usurped their land, just total destruction from Indigenous people bringing rum and this substance that they never had. It was weaponized. Alcohol was weaponized against Indigenous people. And I never thought about that, about this alcohol that I was drinking to try to kill the pain that I was dealing with. And I was so moved by that experience, laying there with the IV in my arm and I'm watching that. And it's like, wow, it's been 500 years and it's still happening. I'm part of this cycle, right? It's still happening. They're still killing us. They're still killing us. And I left that hospital that day at the age of 21 and I never drank again. And I began talking to my grandfather and I was very fortunate to have many years with him. And I began on this journey of learning about my people, my community. And I didn't learn it from the schools. I had to go to the archives. I had to go to the elders. And I became a traditional, and I learned the stories and I started sharing these stories back. And I became a singer on that drum. My grandfather put that drum in my hand and he told me, you're gonna, and I received my name at that age, Kankanto Chokesacheng. He says, you're gonna travel, you're gonna do many things. And when I came out of this post-apocalyptic fog of this post-genocidal era of our Indigenous people, I wanted to try to make sure what happened to me as a child didn't happen to other Indigenous people, you know. And so I began singing and sharing with my kids, and you know, we've traveled all over on the Powwow Trail many years, and I began writing, and I seen the power that we can have with our platforms, and of singing and sharing and writing our poetry and our stories, and this brings me to the Morning Road to Thanksgiving. This was my second book that came out, and I knew. As an educator, but also as a creative writer, I knew I needed to write something that was layered within a very important story that will call people's attention. Because if I went the academic approach, 1620 they came, 1621, in 1637 there was a massacre. I could do all that, but nobody wants to hear that because the trauma of white people of being the descendants of these perpetrators, right? They don't want to hear it. They close it out. So we got to put these things in stories and draw them in. I call it incidental learning. And so I was thinking a lot of that concept when I put together the Morning Road to Thanksgiving. And it took me 4 years to write, and it talks about the history. And I wrap it in a story of this man who's very bitter about, it's Native man, he's very bitter about the white world, what's happened to his people. And so he goes on this journey, and you think of it's, you look at it kind of hilarious at first because he says he's going to end Thanksgiving forever. And so he rallies his cousin, and it all takes place right here. And as the elder Josephine said, it's all local. And so you know these places that's mentioned in the book, you know the stories, and you know these people. Their names are just different, right? And so Nimpa, the main character, he goes on this journey to try to end Thanksgiving, and you get to learn about the first Thanksgiving. You're learning history. You're like going around. You're like this. You're like, you have the God's eye, right? And you're watching this unfold, and you don't have to have judgment. You just get to be there, right? And so we're not telling you, as Adequate said, not to celebrate Thanksgiving, but you're learning about the racism. You're learning about the atrocities. You're learning about how white people look at us, and you're learning about how we see each other. And I was very, it was very important for me to add that lateral violence. You know, Nimpa's brother-in-law, he's this white-looking Indian, and he's not accepted. Nimpa's not having it. He doesn't think he's an Indian. And so I wanted to really draw into that, these kind of things that are real life experiences for our people, and talk about that openly. And so the story's doing a lot of different things. It's letting people know about who we are as a people, how we're still here. We have a living presence, and a word I've been moving away from as I talk to pedagogues about when we say Native history. I like to say Native living presence, because we're still here. And I try to spend more time talking about what's going on today in our communities, what our youth are doing, what our food sovereignty programs are, what our preservation trust is doing, what we're doing at the cultural centers, how we're passing it on. And so those become more important things to talk about. So because folks can actually get engage and take a part in that. And so the Morning Road to Thanksgiving was a device I wanted to use to bring people in, to help them know that they are a part of the history, but they're also part of the present, that we can all have a place here. And so, and it talks about the depression, it talks about the addiction. I mean, the story goes into many different things. And like I said, all the people you meet in that story, you know them. And so it was, and when folks asked me about how I wrote it, I said, well, I just opened up the computer and I just asked this person, well, Wavy, what do you want to do? Nimpa, where do you want to go next? I asked Nimpa's sister, what are you going to do next? And they just kind of took over the spirit. And so the book was a national award winner. I was able to do a lot of traveling with that book. And I remember I was at Forest County, Potawatomi, and some elders had read that book, and they hugged me and said, thank you, we needed this. And so I am truly humbled and honored to be that vessel, to share that. And as I said earlier before, like with Okiteo, we're able to have this platform now to pass on that, to have our young people, to have all these things, right, that I thought I would never live to see, right? I thought I would never live to see so many things. Kaylee, nationally a boxing champion, and all the youth doing so many different things. And it's because of the platforms. And I remember Adequin's grandpa, my cousin Talok, I remember him when I was a little guy, and he inspired me. He let me know it's okay to do what I'm doing. He came over and hugged me when I had my little guys that are now Adequin's age. And he says, he was so impressed and proud of me. And so we stand on the shoulders of our elders, and we continue on. And so I want to finish by just going back what Josephine said about the power of the land. We're still on our land, you know. I'm still here. I'm coming to you from my homeland right here in Webster, or as we say, Webster. So it's a powerful medicine to be here and to share those stories. And so that's why I wrote that book. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, I think all of you all know on here that I am big on solutions, big on results. I will totally stand on the front line when I'm called to do so, and I'm capable, and you all know that, at the drop of a dime. But I'm also like, okay, what's the next solution here? How do we actually make the change? And it's so beautiful to hear that your life story, you were able to really, kind of put that into a healing story for others, no matter what color, no matter where they live, to hear what is that road to morning Thanksgiving for us. So I thank you for that. Chris, you have actually just written an awesome book. And I'd love to hear, somewhat of your story, and what brought you to writing that, because that's another solution as well.
Sure. So I'll just show you the book really quick. It's called If You Lived During the Plymouth Thanksgiving. And it's a children's nonfiction book for Scholastic about the Mayflower landing and the before, the after effects of it. And then also the story of the creation of the modern day Thanksgiving holiday that we have today. Because of course, what America celebrates is the friendly narrative that they have been celebrating since the 19th century. But that's really what I call in the book a foundational myth of this country, and it doesn't do students in this country to be taught mythology about Native peoples, especially about the time of contact. The reason why I wrote the book is it really goes into a lot of what we've been talking about altogether, erasure. Coming from Wabanaki territories, it's not like Maine is like a glorious place when it comes to this. It's just a much more rural area. So the level of erasure is a lot less present, I guess you would say. When I got down here to Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island area, I really noticed how prevalent it really, the amount of colonial erasure is here. I mean, John Mason's statue is on the state building, who led the Pequot massacre. I can just imagine, for my Pequot relatives, their representatives having to go into that building, right, and walk under that statue all the time. And that's always present. And as a member now of the Mashantucket Pequot community, married here, raising children, I think about the experiences I had leaving the reservation from home and experiencing, that level of erasure, and not wanting my children to have to grow up, and not wanting their children to grow up with those same levels. And so I met Wampanoag people, very early on, when I was a teenager. One of my friends was Fawn Brown, and I got to meet Slow Turtle through her, a very long time ago, and hear him speak, and hear about this another perspective on this story. And also, both of my parents, my mother and my father, were present at the first National Day of Mourning that was organized by Frank James back in 1970. And my dad was at Harvard at the time, and so they were in the territory, and they both attended. So I always had this other, perspective, and, working at the Pequot Museum, Nakai can speak to this, I'm sure. You can speak to this, I'm sure. It would just really bother me at times that, that innocently a child would ask if the Pequots were alive in the Pequot Museum. That to me just says that, something really needs to get done. So when Scholastic came to me with this particular project, this is a rewrite of an old 1970s book that was called If You Were at the First Thanksgiving. And what I really wanted to do was to center my Wampanoag relatives who have been teaching this history, for years. As a way of, making sure that their perspectives are being heard. If you look at the reviews that have come out about it, even though it's written for kids, it doesn't shy away from the fact that there's perspectives on the arrival of the Mayflower as an invasion, that a lot of death and other things came along with it. And those types of things. But, learning about them is hard at times. But, it's also hard for us to exist in this world. I wanted to make sure to include as much as possible, normalizing things like the English language as a foreign language to this land, bringing back as much as possible. I'm not a speaker of the languages in this territory here, but I use people that are knowledgeable speakers, and make sure that the language gets introduced into the book to normalize that for American children, that there is a whole different language. Well, I mean, we have to, at fourth grade, and go to English language schools and learn words like onomatopoeia. Our children have to learn that, by the time we're in fourth grade. It's only fair that English speaking children have to learn a little bit of Algonquin, words in the trade, and that's really the blueprint of all of our cultures is our languages, so that's really what it all came about. That's why Agamada Educational Initiative was born was really out of this frustration, and Donis and I are both visitors to this territory. We're both not from this territory. We're both married into this territory, but we're raising children here. And we're very much concerned, with the future of that our children are going to experience and their children are going to experience. And we want to do what we can, to contribute to the larger Native community at large here, to do what we can. So what I always tell people is that my book can only take you so far. I'm not Wampanoag. I can't tell you Wampanoag history from a Wampanoag perspective, but I can at least open the door for you to realize that Wampanoag people are not only figments of the past, right, which is how they're typically written about is in past tense. That's a big problem. My book makes sure to put Wampanoag people in the present, and that way people would know that they have people that they can ask, that are here and now. And that's really what it all boils down to for me, is a lot of my frustration, I guess, with the amount of erasure, and doing what I can, to counteract it and help.
Thank you. And that's what we have to do. Even when you stand on the front line, I've had a couple of Pequots come down. I know Andre came down when we literally were dealing with another desecration. I hate to say another, but in our sacred burial sites in the Shinnecock Hills, we have to stop that, because if we don't, then they literally will erase the fact that we still are from that area. And then they could just be like, well, what do you mean this is your homeland? There's no burials here. You know what I mean? And that's sick. So there's so many different ways and creative ways, innovative ways, and healing ways for us to actually create these solutions. And that's really what this entire discussion is about. So I thank you for that.
I got one more thing to add on that too.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so, erasure happens within our own communities as well. It's happened to my family, for example. And, I'm not the only family that this has happened to. And what I suggest is communities themselves, they need to go out and bring people home, because then everything will be whole in that sense. There's been a lot of colonialism imposed on us in that sense. And it's destroyed tribes, people. It's destroyed tribal members like myself. They can't, we're erasing ourselves. And this is what we really have to wake up to. So when we understand what we have to do is we just have to go back to our records, go back to our census, all this stuff, bring people home. It's very simple. When we do that, we will be whole. And when we do that, everything will be as it should. And that's really, I don't understand why we're not doing that.
No, I totally actually agree.
And one more thing I have to say is when people let's say when Danny Manahan goes down to your community in Shinnecock, what the hell is he doing for his own community? What are we all doing for our own communities? For me, it looks very fake and it's not right. That's the truth.
I understand. So the question I actually was going to have was going to be for you. So I guess this just works out. But I hear you. And I also want everyone to know that is listening that the reason why I've actually selected or invited those that are on here is because in many ways, we actually are family if we're coming from the tribes that we've said that we're from. And it's imperative for us to recognize, help to heal some of the pain that we've been, been going through. And the lateral violence that was brought up by Larry Spotted Crow, it's imperative. I've experienced that as an individual, as someone that is of one of the highest, richest melanated colors of our communities. I've experienced that all of my life, but I will say that it has never stopped me from doing whatever it is that I have to do. And so my question actually, Dan, was going to be for you. And it was really about kind of, one of the things that I admire about you, and this is written down. One of the things that I actually admire about you is that no matter the pain, no matter what you've gone through, no matter all of the different feelings and emotions that you have been put through, you are still representing all of our families outside of our region, right? I'm wearing your wampum. I think these are Are these ones from? No, I think these are from Wampanoag out of Mashpee. I always try to wear different pieces. This one is from Chuck Quinn from Shinnecock. But I wear your ring, you know what I'm saying, that you made. And I wear it proudly because where I got it was in Las Vegas. I was in Vegas, okay, at Res and seeing all this beautiful wampum and your stories that you have to teach about the families and who we are, despite everything you've been able to go through, you've persevered through that. So to me, that is a solution to some of the issues that we're experiencing and we're seeing. So I guess the question, how it comes is, what is your process in honoring our family's legacy? What is the process? Because sometimes people can hear what you go through, and sometimes we don't always understand that, right? Because we're not in that position. Some of us are, some of us aren't, but you're you. But then we also seeing the beauty and how you're going through it by creating and being one of the founders for Social Distance Powwow, brought all of Indian country during a time of the pandemic. I mean, some of the things that you do, I admire, but what is your process in continuously doing that? Because that answer really is going to be a solution for those that are feeling very similar to how you feel.
Yeah, I'll say, thanks to Andre too for the words you said, because a lot of that is important for people to hear in terms of, culture and, our ancestors were all artists. Art is our culture. So, bringing that culture back, our arts back, brings healing. Bringing what Andre was speaking about hit home to me. I did a lot of things. I got my master's degree from Pratt in Brooklyn, undergrad from Mass Art in Boston, in these white institutions, in these colonized institutions. And what that taught me in those institutions was that this way of teaching is not proper, is not right. And that's where social distance POW for me was important, because it is a form of a space for education. We've reached people around the world on that platform. And, I kind of have a lot in my brain right now. So I apologize for being scatterbrained. It's my mind, it's how it works. So sorry with that.
No, it's okay.
One quote I'll say is Anawan, who's, Adequin's uncle and my cousin. One thing I'll mention, he said to me when I was younger, is something that always stuck, is that he'd rather die rich in culture than rich with money. The money has really, I'll speak from what I witnessed growing up in Norwich, Connecticut, seeing the Pequots and the Mohegans get the casinos built. The money came in, it really destroyed our people. The true people, the Pequots, my family, everyone that's still there, we were on the 1900, we're not on the 1910 census. So that's how we're not enrolled. We're on 1858 and prior. So due to a white man's census, we are not enrolled in our tribe. And it's these things that it's sad that we let white folks still destroy who we really are as nations. And why do we do this? Why do we continue to, follow these laws? Why do we continue to be brainwashed by all these laws? And a lot of it too is, we need to start creating more of our own spaces like you're doing here. What social distance POW has become. We need our own places, our own spaces. We need to get away from this colonialist society. We need to do our own thing. And we need to just forget about this paper genocide, because paper genocide exists in every nation, not just the East Coast. It's every nation across the country. And all that's about is stealing our lands, erasing who we are, and taking. So what we got to do is just get our culture back, and everything will come home, honor our ancestors with our culture. And that'll bring us home. Exactly what Andre was saying earlier. He knows what's going on with this.
Yeah.
And I appreciate him. I've seen him grow up as a little one too, and coming in, and it's been great to see him grow and blossom and become who he is. And so I'm thankful that, not just him, but everyone here, Adequate, everyone, people like Larry, seeing Larry and his kids growing up, seeing them come into our communities and drumming, and seeing those little kids on the drum, it really affected me as a kid. It's like, wow, look at these little kids jamming out, and now they're young men. All these things in my life have shaped who I've become. It's not just me, it's being in our communities. And that's what we got to do, is be in our communities and just get back what's been taken and erased. That's, and I don't want to take up too much time. I can go on and on. So I'll shut up now.
That's okay. I appreciate that. That's, you know, and I appreciate everybody hanging in there because this really was just something that's just guided by spirit. I had actually had a phone call. I actually called Andre, I think the day of me witnessing what took place. And I was just like, okay, the next day I was like, okay, I got to do something. We got to be able to, you know, because we have these individual conversations. A lot of times we have a fire where we'll sit around, we'll have these conversations. But even though we have a lot of participants that might be from our outside communities, there's a lot of people that are from our communities on here. Sometimes it might be our tribal leaders, it could be our warriors, it could be our medicine people, it could just be some of the people that just experience the red light, you know what I'm saying? All of that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to figure out, like, what is the solution? Or how can we start creating solutions, because we're all kind of doing that, but bringing it collectively is actually going to create a more impactful frequency that actually really makes that change that we're looking to see. So with that being said, I want to toss my question over to Hawks, actually, because we're talking about some of these needs of being on the front lines, that then also persevering through the erasure, whether that is what other natives are saying about us or sometimes with our own communities. And with all the work that you've been doing, you've been able to, I see people being on the front lines in a physical way, but you have intellectually been able to be on the front lines in so many regards. And that takes some serious skill and wisdom. And with that being said, Josephine even mentioned it about how we are still here. And I want to say to all those that are listening, that says a lot about our intellectual DNA as a people in the Northeast. We didn't leave. We did not leave. And some of us still hold tenure over the lands in which our ancestors lived on. And we didn't have to flex in many ways like other people do, because we have some serious DNA, and that has a lot to do with our intellect. And I admire what you do with that, as you have pioneered spaces and been able to do things as a sovereign being without having to necessarily be enrolled in a federal tribe. And that's something that, you know, a lot of people look at a black and white and they look at federal tribe, non-federal, state, historical. At the end of the day, I call the families to the table. And that's what this conversation is really led from and about. Of course, we have a lot of things that we've experienced, but how are you able to intellectually maintain being on the front lines to really pioneer for all of us in that space?
So I think primarily it comes from a lot of prayer, just because it's stressful dealing with people and their thoughts and their comments and their beliefs. So definitely a lot of prayer. But secondly, I would say it comes from the simple fact that I know who I am, and I know who my people are, and I know where we came from. And as I've educated myself, what happened to us. And I think that that's what's really encouraged me and motivated me to move in the spaces that I am, putting together the pieces of what happened to us. And then once understanding what happened to us, then having a picture on what we should be doing about it. And what I found a lot of times is that it's really divide and conquer. Even when you go quickly to the wars, it was never Europeans coming and overpowering us because they were so mighty and they had guns and guns. They were turning us against one another. Going back to the Pequot Wars, when the Narragansetts were down there helping, you know, and then turned around and Pequots helped out in Phillips War. So it's always been about, you know, disunifying us and getting us to fight against one another. And when I catch, you know, the negative comments and things of that nature, I'm able to recognize that it's that same spirit from 400, 500 years ago, just manifesting in a different way. So in that vein, I've learned not to take it personally. And rather to what the elder said, you know, about the fact that it's really all about respect, right? At the end of the day, it's about respect. And I look at it as respect in two manners. One, respect for other Eastern people, because I don't think that we do that enough with each other. I think that we have to be more respectful towards one another. And I think that's what a lot of Dan was talking about and a lot of what other people are talking about, especially when it comes to the lateral stuff. We're very vicious towards one another when we want to be Eastern people. And I see us treating each other probably how Europeans got treated by us when they got here, which is why they were so terrified. But I see us doing that towards each other. So when I see that, like I said, I recognize it for what it is and I don't take it personal. I'm going to disagree with you, you know, that's just the way our people are, and I'm going to do it passionately and I'm going to let you know how I feel, but it's not anything personal, because at the end of the day, like you said, we're still extended family, we're still relations, and we're still having these collective problems. So that's the first thing I see. And then secondly, and I think we're talking about it now, respecting and making sure that our culture and our ways are respected, because, you know, we get a lot of flack from other nations about how they think we're supposed to be and what they think we're supposed to look like. And so it's taking all of those things and putting them in their proper place from an historical perspective and then from a spiritual perspective, right? Because we're fighting spiritual warfare. I'm not fighting this person in front of me. I'm fighting that anger that they have. I'm fighting that frustration that they have. And that probably comes from them going through something just as what I am, but being fed something different than what I was fed. You know, for a lot of other people, they were fed that we're dead. We all died. There's no more Indians here. So that's what they have to deal with. And that's what we have to kind of contend with them. So when I take that there and I put that to the side so it doesn't make it personal, like I said, I then want to know, okay, if that's what happened and that's what's going on, then how do we address it? And what I kept coming back to, and this came from the work I did running the community center, just generally, is that it's the law. They're doing things by the law. And the most important thing I learned about the law is that it's not about being right or wrong or ethical or moral. It's just what they wrote down in books, which is so foreign to how our people think. Because we think you're supposed to do the right thing, you know, and you judge a person by how they conduct themselves and their character and their word. That's not the law. The law is about what they wrote down and how you can interpret it and what you can get away with. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, okay, so let me stop being mad about what they did and let me stop looking at what they actually did. And one of the main things I had to realize was that if Europeans can do it, then so can't we. Why can't we do it if they can do it? And this just became more legitimate as I started taking classes. Dr. James Diamond's in our audience here. He commented earlier, but we took federal Indian law with him. And then we took tribal courts and constitutions. And one of the things that he puts out there is that sovereignty is inherent. If it hasn't been given away, then it still exists. So I switched my mind to start thinking like that. Well, wait a minute. I don't need permission to do these things. You need to explain to me where I agreed that I can't. And that's just been the basis of what I've been doing. So if you see me arguing, fighting, being audacious, things of that nature, it's because I'm a Narragansett and I'm a Northeastern Indian, and I got a damn right to feel this way in my lands. And I hope that when others see that, especially being here from the Northeast, that inspires them to conduct themselves in a similar manner. Because that's the only way things change, when we change. And if we continue fighting with each other, if we continue attacking each other, if we continue dividing along federally recognized versus non-federally recognized, along what happened in the 1600s. I've heard arguments amongst family around what happened in the 1600s. And I'm like, to what avail? How does that help today? What does that change? You know, you weren't alive back then. That was your ancestors. You don't have to be exactly like they were. And if we're honest, you know, all of our ancestors weren't great people. Some of them got us involved in what we're dealing with today. So all of that in the work that I do, it's really been about better understanding who I am and then continually trying to be in a process of decolonizing. And that starts with understanding that we are who we are, regardless of who says what about us. And now, instead of arguing with other people's narratives about us, how do we start to articulate our own narratives, which is why I love the books, which is why I love the reestablishment of ceremonies, which is why you'll see me fighting online the way that I do. Because I love the fact that we're here, you know, in Niski Tampua, we're still here. And that's something that I'll always hold dearly to me, and I'll always be a fierce advocate for. So in the things that I pioneer, long story short, it's because I know who I am and I'm willing to push boundaries. And I appreciate everyone on this panel, because each of you, if we've interacted or if I've seen you doing what you do, you've encouraged me to be more confident in just being an Eastern Indian. And that's important, right? Because when it comes to this US thing, it starts with us. I always say, if they don't win the King Philip's War, there's no America. This world's a very different place. You know, so Europeans, be thankful that we were disunified, because if we weren't, your world wouldn't be where it's at. And also be wary for the fact that when we do get unified, because when the East gets unified, that's a very different situation that everyone has to deal with. And I'm all about that type of unity. So thank you for the opportunity to share, Shanae.
Wow, thank you. I was just over here like, yes, drop them gems, because it's a fact. And I think what's really good to know is that we're all at different places in our lives on our own journeys. You know what I'm saying? And I think the beautiful thing is to see the collectiveness and where we're all at. Listening to Larry Mann talk about his story, you know, was like, wow, I was like in a place like that in my life, you know what I'm saying? And then that light bulb clicks on, but that's your journey at your time. And it's beautiful to hear, to be able to be relatable, you know what I'm saying? And I could take something to learn from that story. And I think when we come together collectively, we can do such. I want to actually ask Tracy, because one of the things that, you know, a lot of people know in Indian country, and we've experienced this firsthand when, you know, with the slaughter and the genocide and the kidnapping of our missing, murdered Indigenous women and women, you know, women are of very significant importance to the origin of who we are. You know what I mean? Because you're born from a woman, and the protection of the womb, the protection of a woman is extremely important. And so I really commend a lot of the people that do the work around women empowerment and women's circles and the things that they do for women. And a lot of times today, people are like, oh, all right, enough about this women empowerment stuff. But it's like, no, we need more of that, because we have so much that we've got to focus on healing. And that is the womb, because that is really the first sovereign right there that comes through the birth, right? If you know anything about maritime law, I think some of that language is in that law. But I wanted to ask you about some of your work that you're doing with, you know, empowering women in our communities.
Yes. So I work with a nonprofit organization. I actually volunteer my time. I do have a full-time job in higher ed, but I volunteer my time with a women's organization called Women of Color Health Equity Collective in Springfield, Massachusetts. And they are better known as The Collective. And it's actually a movement building organization that's built on resilience of women of color. It's completely run by women of color who all have some sort of shared power. They all have a seat at the table, including myself. I am a friend of the board. And so what that means is, you know, I volunteer my time. I'm on committees. I am able to, you know, facilitate cultural humility training, race equity training. I'm learning a lot. I love it. And I actually want to be able to, you know, focus on the Indigenous population, because when we talk about women of color, we think of Latinx, you know, Blacks, but we need to also include our people. They focus on the health equity of women and girls of color. You know, they pretty much ask that question, you know, what would it look like if women and girls of color enjoyed optimal health, you know, and well-being in a socially just world, you know? So social justice, racial justice, anti-racism, you know, all of that is their focus. And they center their efforts on cultural humility. So they offer training, education, advocacy, research, and pretty much like grassroots organizing. They work together as women of color to address the issues of our sisters, you know? You know, our liberation is deeply tied to one another, you know? And I love that. And one of the co-executive directors, Dana Campbell, I believe she's out there in, you know, in watching. She's a mentor to me. She pushes me. She definitely encourages me. And, you know, just to do this work, this passion work, this work that is really important for us to do. And, you know, again, it allows me to have a voice at the table as an Indigenous person. Yeah, I mean, again, it allows me the opportunity to, as like I said, as an Indigenous woman, as a Black woman, to have a voice. And the collective also wants to know how they can, you know, be an ally to us. You know, what would we need them to do to help us with some of the projects that we may want to do in our Indigenous community.
Wow, thank you. I think that's important. You know, I never want to leave out, you know, like I said, one of the important origins of importance for us, which is, you know, our women. And so with that being said, I know that Bella, you have done a lot of work with our, you know, communities. Like you said in the beginning, you know, it's not about like you, and you can't always speak on the specific things that you do, but some of the things that I have witnessed as a young woman is the empowerment that you've given all of us young people, and the love that you have for all of our tribes really comes directly from your spirit and your heart, and that's true. And with that, it's like, what can you say to the world, you know, about the importance of loving on one another? Because I've learned so much from you just through my whole evolution of being a woman and an adult, that I take some of the things that you've taught me in my every single day way of living, every day. And I can probably say so many people on this panel and in this watching this can probably say the same from you alone. So I was just curious to know, maybe what can you tell the world about the love that we need to have for one another, and, you know, our connection to one another.
Forgive me, everyone. I'm in San Diego and I am traveling, but I want to contribute a lot to my mother, Alice Babcock Noka Brown Champlin, and to all of the matriarchs that have come before her. You know, I have a lot of oral history that was passed down to me. I cannot and I will not depend on any of the colonizers' stories. We know them to be without much truth, though they brag in some of the most horrific things that they've done to us. But there is really no truth in how they paint or depict us. So in spirit, which I'm led by, and I believe it's spirit that brought us here today, each and every single one of us being given an assignment, and we accept it. We accept these assignments, no matter how heavy they are, and sometimes unrewarding they may feel. It's necessary that we complete these assignments to get us to where the Creator has us in position for. For whatever is to come, it's none of our business, but it is our job to get us there. So I am not perfect because I love being who I am and I love my people, but I hold on to it so tight that sometimes I myself don't want to share it. And I have to decolonize that. And I have to tell myself with such greatness, with such beauty that we are as a people, who wouldn't want to be a part or a piece of that greatness? And who am I to not want to open up my heart and my spirit and share that greatness with everyone? Not just our very own people, but with all people, because it's necessary for them to see and them to know and them to feel how great this is and how great we are. We are not those savages in the book that we are depicted as. We come from greatness, wholeness. We come from the earth. We are the seed. We are Mother Earth, Grandfather Ocean. We are a part of something greater than ourselves, something that we can never understand because we don't have it to understand. It is not for us to understand everything. And when you feel as though you need to understand everything, then you need to humble yourself and take those 2 steps back, because spirit leads, we don't. Now, I love every single one of you, and there are some things that have been said, and I could feel hurt, and I could feel pain, and I don't like that feeling, and I'm over here trying to process some of the things that I heard, and I'm trying to process some of the pain, because I tend to feel it as though it's hurting me myself, and I don't know where it's truly coming from. And it will probably be days, months, maybe years before I can really understand. Or maybe it's not mine to understand. But know that if I'm not as good as I try to be, or work towards being, or teach my children to be, or teach my grandchildren, nieces, nephews, or if I don't lead in a way, in a good way that Spirit wants me to lead, know that I am working every day and trying to be better than the person I was yesterday, to be greater for next generations to come, and to give everything that I've learned on this journey to all of you, because it is not mine. I do not hold on to this. It is to be shared. It is to be given to you, because I don't know when my day is going to come, but I journey west. But I will know that I have shared every bit of knowledge with all of you so that you can carry it forward. It is not mine. It is ours, and it's for the generations to come. So humble yourselves. Don't worry about if you know things feel rewarding enough. If things feel rewarding enough, because it doesn't. I've done a lot of things out there, and sometimes I felt like, wow, you know, no love, right? And then there's times when there's nothing but love, but I was seeking for something that I shouldn't have. This is all about spirit. We're here for a short time. Let's make it great, and let's do it together. And for anyone that I have ever offended, I'm working on me every day. And I pray that you work on you, because we're going to do some great things moving forward. And I'm in it, you know, until I'm called home. I hope.
Thank you. I'm gonna get, I see you have your hand raised, Adequate, and then my question is gonna go to Nakai. So go ahead, Adequate, you had your hand raised.
Cut over.
First thing, Josephine, can you just give us that quote one more time from Slow Turtle? That one hit me, and I feel like it's a good time to just say that one more time, just for us, please.
Like I said, it's from part of what he had said. I'm not sure of all of it, but so I added to it. But it is with understanding, with knowledge comes understanding, with understanding comes respect, with respect comes peace. And it's just, you know, it's just like perfect words, I think, when we put that all together, and whatever additions I've added, or, hope I haven't left out from what he had said, but it's just, that's how the world should be.
So I just thank you so much for that. Katapatanamu, Katapatash. I just want to say, like, when you live with that mindset, with like that state of mind, and you are who you say you are, and you know where you come from, and knowing where you come from, know what I mean, and embracing who you are, that's all you could do. Like, you can't really get too upset with the other people that are foreign to this place, And if you do, it's only you losing your patience. And if you could have patience, then you could be a master at anything, And if we really use this patience and really try to master the art of just teaching who we are and how we sustain this land and how we act as stewards of this land, then we could teach people how to respect this land, and all these things, all the building, all these different things that are going on could all be stopped, because at the end of the day, we all have to live here. Even if you are foreign to this land, to here, if you could respect it, then we'll always have a place to live. And if we could all live together with respect and understanding of each other, then we could all live in love and peace. And it's just crazy, because like having that feeling, inside, it really picks you up, And sometimes people, when they're like, you hear people going to different places and they get homesick. We would have to be on vacation to be homesick, and who's not having fun on vacation? Come on, we gotta, know what I mean? If you go far away from here, you'll feel it a little bit. And sometimes that's what it takes, just a little move outside the box to stop all the friction, stop all the bumping heads, step outside the box for a little while, get a little bit disconnected just so you can connect with yourself, and then come back to your community and just share as much as you can, as much as like you learned, and just always be open-minded, and just live with that respect. That's I don't want to go too far off, and I come from very, very wise people. My grandmother, Alice Brown Chapel Machado, she, amazing woman. She could talk to anybody. She could talk to a senator. She could talk to a bum on the street. It doesn't matter, because she had a respect for people. And she just had that feeling of belonging. And that's what she instilled in me, as well as my family. Tall Oak, for instance, we talked about him earlier and how he started the day of mourning and took part in it, and like brought everybody together with Jim Frazier. Like sometimes when we speak on things, it doesn't get heard, because sometimes we get so angry and that anger is built up, But if we could just learn how to communicate in different ways and use this language that's so foreign to us, if we could gain that knowledge and share these messages that we're all sharing right now, then and really work together, because I'll tell you what, I'm not the best with the vocabulary and all this other stuff, but there is a piece to the puzzle that I bring, and we all have that piece, and if we connect and we're in tune with this land, and we're eating healthy, we're growing our own foods, and we know what we're putting into our bodies, our waters are clean, and we could drink our waters without contamination, and we stay away from the alcohol, all these different things, then we'll be doing our part, and I just want to say, that's it. Once you find that purpose, then nothing could stop us, we all have a piece of the puzzle, and once we bring it all together, like we're all speaking about, the circle will just keep on going, and our next 7 generations will be able to live here just as we do. And that's all I pray for every day. But with that being said, I just want to say Katapatanamu, Wachi Wami Natankwasuk. Thank you, all my relations.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adequan. I think it's important to know, like I said, I wanted to reach out to people that I know at least are connected to my family tree. So even if we don't all know how we're connected, I definitely know that we are if we descend from these communities that we say, the Anishinaabe, the people of the Dawnlands, Ninamasinawa, that's who we are. And so when we're together, we can feel each other's pain. We can feel each other's achievements. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but when Kaylee was in that ring, I felt like I was about to get hit. I'm just like, whoa, when she won, we all won, right? That a feeling that she showed us and what we witnessed, we feel that because we're blood relatives. When one of our relatives are crying or they're missing in one of these other communities, we feel that. And that's why I say sister tribes, and that's what we know it as. So with that, I want to bring this over to Nakai, and then we have just a couple more left, and it's not that many questions that I have. But it's beautiful to see the spirit, over, because that's really what this is. So we still have almost 100 people still watching in this. They have not left, just saying. So if you do have to leave, I understand that, but this was an assignment, just like Bella said, and we're understanding the assignment. Let's just say that much. Nakai, at such a young age, and I think we all know this, and I'm not gonna pull like the older relative card here, but I have been able to watch you, and you too, Adequan. I have been able to watch you just really step into a cultural leadership position for both of your communities, Narragansett and Mashantucket Pequot. I've been able to work alongside you as a colleague, as a cultural educator at Mashantucket Pequot Museum that houses a lot of our history and things like that. And then over a very short amount of time, watch you just take off like a rocket, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like it's imperative for maybe you to share that process and that growth, because so many young people that we just are always praying that, they stay in the right direction, or, you were the arena director this powwow at Green Corn, at Skimitzen. And we were all so proud to see you over there, on GQ, like, look at the guy, he's the arena director. But you're a cultural leader, not only just in your community, but in the region. And we call upon you when we need you for certain things. And so I just wanted to just kind of give the floor to you to just kind of talk about that process, and maybe what are some of the challenges that helped you stay, focused on your mission.
Absolutely. I mean, growing up as an Indigenous person in Connecticut is a process and struggle in its own. Everything is really trial by fire. So much of that colonialism was born and bred right here. And the people here are very entitled and hold strong to that. So, I mean, growing up, this is never what I expected to be doing, but this is what Spirit and Creator had intended for me. And really everything has fallen in line. And it seems overnight because I'm so young, but it took a lot of work, and it took being that fly on the wall, being the sponge, and just soaking up as much as I could from everyone that I came in contact with. A Carter and a Spears, and I come from Grace and Russell Spears, and born and raised living in King's Factory and running the Gansett Res, and me and Adequan are close family. Having the connections with so many of these communities has been it's been a resource. We don't have bad blood. I don't have bad blood with any community, any person, and growing in love, because like Cousin mentioned earlier, we see what happens when we work against each other. History has shown us that the worst comes when we work against each other. And I know we've talked about this prior, but I've participated in ceremony and done sweats, and I've had dreams of us as a singular people, us coming together and operating as one and really working towards that common goal, because we've been doing this, contact 500 years. We've been fighting these wars 200 years longer than any of the ones that the history books are putting out there and teaching these kids today. It's not hard to teach about your life, I guess. So the work that I do is just teaching about myself and my people. So people always ask me, well, where'd you learn this? It's talking to your aunties, your uncles, your elders. It's putting in that time to look at them as the true resource that they are. I was fortunate enough to have just great resources at hand, working with you, working with Chris, Trudy Lamb Richmond, Tony Whedon, Tall Oak, Anawan Weed, and there's just, the list goes on. And, taking the time and go up and talk to these people. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask and reach out if you need, information and you want to learn about who you are and, what can your purpose be. My purpose in teaching and my purpose in, preserving this culture. I'm a father. I have 2 young kids. I have a 6-year-old daughter, Silver Miss Grace, and I have a 2-year-old son, Kanachet Sukiyan. And I don't want them to have to go through things I had to go through growing up. I don't want them to have the same struggles. We should all leave this land better for our kids and the future generations. And I want them to not have to fight. We're fighting right now in Connecticut to get John Mason removed from the Capitol building. Where the attack took place, where the massacre took place, is in someone's backyard. The man is raising chicken and sheep over top of where my people's bodies lay. The ashes of my people are. And I have just such a strong love for my people because, it's us. We got us. And history has shown us that we need to maintain that. And I always tell people, truth and reconciliation is huge, but we can't sugarcoat the truth. I had a program today with 140 students in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, a very predominantly white community, wealthy, and don't sugarcoat anything for anybody. Tell them the truth, tell them how it is, because you can't beat around the bush. You have to tell the truth. And that's the biggest part of truth and reconciliation, because if you're not giving them accurate and telling them the real deal of how it happened, you don't have to make it palatable for people. You don't have to make it palatable because they weren't thinking that when we were going through all our struggles. And the fact that we're here today and doing this is a beautiful thing. And another thing I always like to tie in is that, time is undefeated. Our day is going to come for every last one of us. And, this land that we're here protecting and we're stewards of. I'm an avid hunter. I'm an avid fisherman, outdoorsman. And, that's how I was raised. That's how I was brought up, providing sustenance, food sovereignty, eating the foods that, where you come from. And that reconnects you with the land, that reconnects you with your people. That's another forced genocide. A huge example is, you go to the Midwest and the bison, but, them clear cutting our reservations prior to us being able to inhabit the land that we were assigned, making game leave, populations dropping due to, having to go to a monetary society is huge. And this land that we're stewards of, the land is our people. When we all go back to the land. We become this land that we're honoring and we're stewards. One day, I'll be this land. And, I expect these younger generations. I've done a lot of work with our youth here in the community and local communities as ambassador and chairman of Mashantucket's Youth Council, teaching them to respect the land, because we're in a funny time where, you have to balance between 2 worlds. We have to go attend our ceremonies. We have to learn our language because we were forbidden to speak it. We were hung at public events where people were, wearing their Sunday's best. And the fact that we're here is a victory and a slap in the face to colonization. So I love it. I've given my children names in the language because every time someone has to speak their name, they're speaking our people's language. And I'm done giving people cop-outs and excuses. So I'm forever going to be a warrior for our people. I'm forever going to fight for what's right. And I love every single person on here, everyone who's watching. And, you know, I love that we're doing this because it's a long time coming. This work needs to be continued. This is hopefully, you know, just the beginning of what's to come. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you. Feel free to reach out. I know I'm going to reach out. Because this isn't something that we can, a lot of times we do things and, you know, it's fun and cool and it lasts for a little bit. We'll go to a meeting or two and then it dies out. But I'm not letting our future die out because that's what it's come to. And we're at a huge point in, you know, in history and in time. Connecticut is, you know, now mandating that Native curriculum be taught. So, you know, we have the platform, we have the voice, getting these states and our governments to understand that we're the primary source. You know, our Indigenous knowledge, our oral traditions are equal to a PhD and equal to non-Native criteria. So again, I'm appreciative, Katapatiamu, to you all for, you know, listening to my rant and my going on, and my work's just beginning, and I'm honored to represent all of you any chance I get. And I love to see all the work that you all are doing and know that I'm watching and that you guys motivate me to keep working harder.
Thank you so much for your wise words. I actually wrote down a couple of quotes about y'all, but I got to put it in a notebook because this is really solution building, you know. And Nakai, thank you for holding a lot of people accountable that, you know, we get together, we talk about what we're going to do, and we're going to do it. And I can't stop, won't stop. So, you know, all of the different meetings and things that I have ever been to with anybody, I haven't stopped. And I'm still open-ended, like, okay, well, let's just pick up where we left off. You know, we're in a different time. There might be different things that we have to now add to the tasks. And there might be different softwares and different things that we can use or technologies that we've created from our spirits or remembered, but we're not stopping. You know what I'm saying? So I thank you for that, that energy. I have two more questions. One's for Joshua, one's for Kaylee. So, and then we can kind of answer a few of the questions that are in the questions here. And I just want to say thank you all for your patience. This is still going and this is awesome. We still have so many people that just haven't, like, you know, left. Joshua, I think after hearing and just listening to all of the different amazing you know, stories from and work that's being done, you know, you mentioned the Boys and Girls Club at Shinnecock, and you started the Shinnecock Youth Clubhouse. You know, you talked about, you know, your experience a little bit in unity, but at the end of the day, one of the important things is our young people, because they're the ones that are literally going to inherit all of this when we become the land again. They're going to be putting us, you know, back into the land, but we've got to also teach them, what are those burial practices? What are those particular ways? What are our protocols? And one of the things that I've been able to see as a Shinnecock woman, you know, that's in your generation, is you really just take it upon yourself to just do what needs to be done for our kids. Whether we have the resources or not, you are going to get the resources and you're making it happen. And that is so powerful, because I think someone was talking about allyship a little earlier. You have literally turned, within a short amount of time, our youth clubhouse into a Boys and Girls Club, and they're working with a lot of different amazing allyships to teach our kids about solar energy, to teach our kids about hunting and fishing and foraging, to teach our kids about what the drum means, who is Shinnecock, even like what is tax preparation, how to write a business plan, all of these different kinds of things. You're bringing all these resources to our community. And I wanted to invite you here because I wanted you to just kind of talk about the importance of that work, despite all of the stuff that could be going on in our own internal communities or the world. You're still focused on that work, and it's powerful.
Thank you. First, I just want to take the time to pause. I was so moved by the words that everybody was saying, that I was like, you know what, something was telling me to just take that moment to acknowledge the fact that we're here today. We're all here together, and be thankful of this moment. And the fact that this is a powerful, powerful circle that we're in right now. We are making a difference in our communities, for each other. Everybody on this panel tonight, I have been inspired by, and I want to acknowledge Raymond and Bella. You guys said some words that were super duper moving to me, and they were spot on. So I just want to say to Bootne and thank you to you guys, especially for the words that you shared tonight. Oftentimes, when we get caught up in the world that we live in today, we get removed from our culture, so I think at the end of the day, it's important for us to realize that our ancestors had it right. And since colonization, things have been out of balance. And this is why there's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of arguing and fighting and mental health issues, drug and alcohol addiction, you name it. All of that is here because the colonizers brought that over here with them. All of those things were foreign to us. So therefore, we don't understand, our spirits don't understand what's going on. And we're fighting against it. But we don't realize that that's what we're doing, and it was said here several times that right now we're being moved by spirit. And it's so true, because none of us prepared a statement, before we got here tonight. We kind of just letting it flow. And the things that are coming to us are coming, I think, from the Creator, because the things that have been shared tonight are so super duper powerful. So when I started out with the Shinnecock Youth Clubhouse, I realized how important it was to engage with our youth. Our youth are not just our future, they are our present as well, and our past, because we acknowledge that the ancestors that have fallen because of the residential schools and all of the trauma and the sickness and the disease that was brought over here by the colonizer. So we have to make sure that we not only acknowledge them, but check on them, ask them how they're doing, what they need from us. But we also know that it's important for us to teach them and to pass things on to them so that we can have things here for them for the next 7 generations. That's what we were taught in our culture. So when I had the opportunity to take the grant that my tribe had, I was like, okay, so how do I reach our children? What are the things that they need? And some of the things that they needed were, number one, something to do. There's nothing to do in the community. Like, what are we teaching our kids? Nothing. And they're complaining and they're watching us sit there and argue with each other and go around in circles and get nowhere. And it's like, okay, so how do we engage with the youth? We have to meet them where they're at. We have to say, okay, how do we mix both our culture and the things that they need? Well, first of all, our culture is everywhere. The things that our ancestors did were our culture on a day-to-day life. And their teachings about balance, about humility, about trust and honor and respect were embedded in their everyday lives. So if we come from a standpoint where our culture is our foundation, then the sky's the limit. So I created a curriculum for our kids. I said, okay, well, what are some of the things that are prevalent in our community that need to be addressed immediately? Some of the things on the list were definitely alcohol and drug abuse, mental illness, suicide prevention, community engagement. How do we get to the point where we're a family again and we're not just separated individual immediate families living in different homes on our territory? We're not a community, we're a tribe. We're connected by blood. We are family, and don't ever forget that. So bringing the people together, the community, not even just the youth, also incorporating the community as a whole. This is an intergenerational thing because it always has been. So taking and pulling on some of our elders, Josephine and the other elders in the community, and saying, okay, well, how do we work together to bring services to our children? let's talk about regalia making. Let's make sure that we're giving our kids those classes. Let's bring back some of our traditional recipes. Why am I not seeing our traditional recipes at our family gatherings? You know, we're at our funeral, but I'm tasting fried chicken and string beans and all these things that weren't necessarily traditional to us. You know, let's bring back that culture and everything that we do. I've created family fun days for our community so that we can be together and just enjoy each other, nothing more. You know, it comes down to giving back. You know, I give all the kids gifts for coming out to our family fun days and just learning how important it is just to be together. And when you are together, you tend to laugh. That's what we do. That's how we heal in our community. We laugh, and that's just how Native people are. So when we're able to laugh and be in the same space, we're able to grow and we're able to heal. So that's where it comes from. But also giving our kids access to have a strong foundation as far as finances go. A lot of people don't know anything about finances. How do you save? How do you make sure that you can survive in this new world that we live in? You know, it's important to always acknowledge and incorporate our culture, but how do you live in the world that the white man has created, you know, for us today? You know, that unfortunately we had to assimilate to. But it's just important for us to be able to have those aspects that are given to our youth. And I feel like it's made a difference in the community, and I will continue to engage with the youth on that level because it really has made a difference. And that's what it's about, you know, so.
Wow, thank you. And I still look forward to having the What is Activism workshop. I actually had the honor to be reached out to from Joshua in the early stages of this. And we talked about, you know, she wanted to really bring community members to be able to lead some of these workshops. And one of that was, you know, what is activism? You know, but it was in the middle of summer, you know, kids got other cool things to do. So we'll do it again. Last question really goes to my sister, Kaylee. Kaylee, you had a quote that I need to frame when you won that last fight. And it was like the day before that Plymouth parade. And it was a week before National Day of Mourn, but it was actually the first day of ceremony for Ngunnawal that my tribe had. So it's like all these things that we were all gathering as tribes anyway for ceremony. And here you go into a ring and win. And one of the commentators had said something to you, and your response was, people have counted me out, but I'm still here and I'm still relevant. And when I took that, I really felt like that really speaks to who we are as a people. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, wow, I was watching you. I was like, wow, like the ancestors literally answered that question because you had just been, you know, in a fight, and they asked you that question, like, you know, how do you feel, like, you know, people trying to come for your title? And it was like, you didn't, you know, you have to be very skilled in answering those questions. But when you are so skilled in allowing the creator to use you as a vessel, it don't matter what kind of questions somebody asks you. It don't matter how people think they're going to jab you or hit you or anything. But the work that you've done, I think a lot of times people don't realize the process and the growth that you've also done too, the healing process, because it's an art, you know, fighting in martial arts, that type of warrior, it's an art form. And I think a lot of people lose sight of the healing and the balance that you have to have in order to be that type of warrior. So I watched that as you answered that question, like, she's an artist, but she's also completely guided creator in spirit, like we said, to be able to eloquently address that for all of us. You know what I'm saying? For every last one of us. And I just wanted to know, like, what is, you know, what's some of the healing work that plays a big part in your success as a world champion, literally, and just as a woman that has gone through so much? What is some of the healing things that you can share with us that you're doing that might be a solution for a lot of us that are fighting for different things?
Well, first off, to Butney, thank you so much for everybody. There's been some knowledge kicking around this circle, man. I'm just sitting here like a little sponge. Like, this is just an amazing time. And especially being, I live in Philadelphia now. I moved away from home. So it's so nice to be sitting in a circle and feel everybody's energy with this time right now. And that's a huge part of my healing, is actually sticking to my roots. And as I stated earlier, like I've been in boxing since, well, almost 20 years, when I was about 13 years old. And I first started with Domingo Tall Dog. I'm wearing his ring, speaking of wampum rings, you know what I mean? And first boxing came to me as I needed something. I am an artist, and coming from a musically inclined family where music was, the foundation of my family, and then art was, as far as painting and jewelry making for my grandmother and my mother. There's so much that everybody has spoken on that has resonated with me, from knowing who you are and where you come from. So I can start there, knowing my family ties, and especially coming from the Sikonke Wampanoag tribe, another first contact tribe, put back together by Willie Green and Slow Turtle. My specific tribe has faced so much adversity. We all have, but there's always those families, the Elderkins, Washington Fisher, where I come from, and very proud. 10 years ago, you wouldn't see me speak so proud of it, because I got caught up in that everybody else's perspective of who I was supposed to be, or who they thought I wasn't, or we were as a people. I can say confidently, I know my accolades outside of who I am as an Indigenous woman has helped that, but whatever the glue is to bring our people together and gain that understanding and respect, I don't care what it is, as long as it happens. And the fact that I, box, and I've gotten that respect, and that door has opened, it is open for my people, meaning specifically the Sikonke, Sukikonke, Wampanoag people. And as much as we're looked down at amongst our own people, I believe that the Creator is using me to bring us as a tribe together, and bring us as a people, as sister tribes together, and have that mutual understanding and respect, and have the ability to share our knowledge with other people who are relearning. I don't ever say I'm learning my language, relearning. My spirit knows these words. I may not know them completely yet, but I know once I learn a word, once I hear it, my spirit goes, oh, I remember that. You say something in Spanish, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll remember that. As soon as I hear a word, that's how I know we're relearning. I pride myself on being what I kind of like a self-delegated first generation Sikant Wampanoag woman that grew up in the culture. My mom didn't, my grandmother couldn't, my great grandmother couldn't dare speak of it. Coming from such genocide as we all come from, especially from the King Philip War, that was, I still feel around this time is so special in not a great way, but it's such a heavy time. And ironically, now I know my journey, I always end up having a really significant fight back to my first world title during this time. And the more and more I've learned that it's not about me. It is not about me, because I would have hung it up a long time ago. It's about us and what I've found my comfortability in such a chaotic thing such as boxing. It's kind of a metaphor for our people. We're in a fight, we're in a circle. As long as we keep our circle tight, we can get through anything, any fight. We can come out with those titles, being the victor. And this has been such a crazy journey. I don't have your typical, as far as boxing goes, your typical had the manager, had the promoter, was cute and frilly and just went along boxing. I had to claw, scratch, and bite my way literally to here, like hit a Mike Tyson ear biting almost, you know what I mean? Figuratively, to get where I'm at now. And every time I gotten knocked down, and for people to tell, oh, you're just a Black girl trying to be Native. Well, who are you? Who's your family? You're not Wamp. I've heard that so many times from so many people that had me questioning myself. We didn't have a reservation. I'm an urban Native. I'm a biracial two-spirit urban Native, you know what I mean? That comes with so much. And every time I got knocked down with somebody telling me who I was or who I wasn't going to be, challenge accepted. And I think that we're all collectively there as a people that we're like, it's time to stop being sad, which this is a quote I heard recently at a film festival from an audience member who asked me a question. It's time to kind of stop being so sad and start getting angry, but a justified anger, because there's motivation and there's drive in the anger, and it can drive all of us to do what we're supposed to be doing and assigned to do. So in my fighting for all nations and really finding that that energy that we all know where it comes from. We all know that universal energy that when we need the extra push, when we're on traveling, and I travel all the way around all around the world. I'm kind of a nomad right now, but that's what's necessary. Knowing who I am and having the nation of people that know who we all are and are starting to really understand the assignment that we're doing in our own fields, but coming together and talking, because everybody's on the same wavelength right now. It's crazy. We're all at the same frequency. And those frequencies and that energy is just going to be transferable even through computers. You know what I mean? So once you find your niche and your craft and your medicine, and you hold that and you open, okay, creator, use me. What do you need me to do? Whether it's go to the front lines, whether it's to grab the mic and say, I don't care because we still here on national television. That's what I'm going to do. 13 years in the game and women's boxing too. To be a woman boxer and have women's boxing being so evolutionary in the last 2 or 3 years, especially, and me to be smack dab in the middle of it at 35 years old with 13 years plus in a pro game, I should be hanging them up. But I got all kinds of belts in my room right now because of y'all, because of what the creator has gifted me to do. And because I said, you know what, Jesus take the wheel kind of a thing. Creator, take the drumstick, take it, just take everything and use me as a vessel. And when I have it right here, holding on to it. I go to the airport like this. I have mine in my pockets and everything. But being able to travel to different communities and share my story and my journey and listen to all these other stories and to these elders that 10 years ago would tell me who I wasn't, and you're not native in this, to getting honored on these different lands that I'm welcome on and honoring their people. When I went to San Diego, that's not my territory. Where am I? How do you honor the part of the land that Turtle Island you're on? And then wanting to know about us on the East Coast, Northeast Woodland people. It's just, that's what keeps me going. When I get those emails from those suicidal kids, when I get the respect from the elders, it's okay. Now, and Shanae can attest to this, now I got a voice. I wasn't this vocal. Oh, I'm gonna talk now. Give me the mic. That's my hashtag. Give me the mic. I got a voice. I'm on a stage. I'm gonna speak for the people who can't speak. We were taught to dance for those who can't dance, sing for those who can't sing, honor the ancestors before us. And this is just how I do it. So whenever my time's up in that ring, I'll still have air in my lungs and a good brain in my head, hopefully, to do the next thing. But right now, I'm doing this for y'all. This is our thing. And I just want the representation in anything, any camera that you put me in front of. You may ask me a question, I'll briefly answer that, but I'm going to take the initiative, and whatever needs to be said, kick me off the network, but whatever needs to be said, that's what I'm going to do. And I physically fight, but I've heard a lot tonight, it's a spiritual battle that I am more than ready for. I wasn't before, but I know I'm ready for now. So things like my last fight were health-wise, things are going on. So the last 2 rounds, I was like, creator, y'all, everybody, I need your energy. And seriously, there was some supernatural things that's not the first time that happened. That's kind of how I know I'm where I need to be. When you can't fathom how you're just going to get through things, like Bella said, it ain't none of your business. Just show up. That's what we got to do, is just show up. So I'm here, and Moskehtu, let's go.
Wow. That's just amazing. All of this is like, it literally is just led by spirit. Like I said, after hanging up the phone, it might've been like 10:30 or 11 p.m. When you all had just, I think, Andre, you got back from the prayers up in Plymouth, I couldn't sleep, because the next day I actually had to go directly into something that was going on here in Atlanta. And it was like a Friendsgiving, a revolutionary healing that was taking place here. And I had asked to come and do some of these like cultural demonstrations. I think all of us have taken a part in that. But sometimes it's just like, I'm not really feeling that right now. So I actually, for the first time, said no to something that I had already agreed to do. And in my spirit, I could not do that, knowing what my relatives just experienced. And also knowing what I was seeing on social media. And it was tearing me apart because I'm not home. And I figured, like, well, how can I still do something about this? And so I just went to my iPhone notes and started writing out like what I think should be done. And this is pretty much a start of it, to address it. The social media that goes on, Sometimes we get caught up in that because we're seeing that we're being erased sometimes by social media, sometimes other community members, sometimes other tribes, and then sometimes now a lot of these corporations that are making profit off of our genocide, making profit off of the topic, things like that, and sometimes pulling you in on not understanding what these contracts really are, but to really utilize you as a way to market what they're trying to sell. And sometimes, we get caught in those worlds. So I wanted to have a conversation, one of many that we will be able to have. And I just want to thank all of you all. I know it's kind of late, but we will be having a lot more discussions like this, really through Moskehtu Consulting, which is something that, I started in 2019. Have been doing a lot of cultural work for our communities with a lot of you all here. In 2019, I started it. In 2020, I walked away from all the jobs that I was working, and now I do this full time. So now I can make this my life's work for all of our people. And I want to be able to utilize the platform that I've built to be able to bring in some of this medicine so that we can share it with so many people that need it and possibly create solutions for that. And that's not for sale. That is not for sale. That's free because it was given to us to give and share. So that's really what, I wanted to be able to share. I know that we have some questions in here, but one of the things I'm going to say is that I will be getting resource links from each of you all, from the books to some of your organizations, to your social media, and everyone that has participated in this will get an email with all of that. So now we have all the call to actions. I heard that the statue for John Mason, Captain John Mason, needs to be removed. We need call to actions for those kinds of things. A lot of the initiatives that Nakai was talking about with the fishing rights, I want to be able to give those call to actions to our participants and those that are watching. So I'll get all the resource links from everybody. And I want to be able to close out in a song. And I want to ask Adequin if you could do the honors and sharing something that's appropriate to kind of close us out, if you're there.
Adequate, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Oh.
It's all right. It's all good. You was in the zone.
Right. I just want to say again, Katapatanamu, Wachiwami Natankusak. Thank you all my relations. Thank you all. I really appreciate the opportunity, and basically to close out, I would probably a song that means a lot to me is Longest Walk. Very well-known song, was sang at so many different occasions, even in my own family, especially. But yeah, because we have a long walk ahead, but we're taking steps one at a time, definitely. And we're really getting to strides. But all right. Yeah. Oh, thank you. hey oh hey hey I oh hey oh hey I oh hey hey oh hey hey I oh hey oh hey I don't hey hey oh hey hey oh hey 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 I don't hey oh hey hey oh hey hey I don't hey oh hey I don't hey hey oh hey hey I don't hey oh hey I don't hey oh hey oh hey oh hey hey I don't hey oh hey I don't hey oh hey I don't hey
Abune, thank you so much. Thank you. That sounds powerful. It's exactly what I feel like I needed. And I know that I needed, and I thank you for that. Thank you for all of your wisdom. And I just want to thank all of you for participating. This will be on YouTube. So this is now a resource that all of us can be able to use as such a solution to what we need to do for our people. So go to subscribe to Moskehtu Consulting LLC on YouTube. It will be saved probably in a couple of minutes. If not, you'll get an email for where to be able to find it, and share this with the elders that weren't able to, watch this. Share this with the children. Share this with your workplace. Share this with your best friend, your significant other. Share this with the world, because Nenowasinawak, our people of the Dawnlands, we have a responsibility as the people that are in the Eastern Gate there to be able to heal all of our Turtle Island. So this is a start as we go into the winter solstice for manifestation. So thank you to all of you all. To Butne. Kawamanash.
Thank you. Kawamanash.